Welcome to our midweek pause. Moving on. Lately, I've been intrigued and troubled by our preoccupations with moving on. That is, until I realized that God made the world this way. Time always moves on, and with it our yearnings and expectations, they all move on. And some of those moments bring us great joy and a certain amount of fulfillment, while other moments are disappointing and bring us to despair. Some 500 years before the birth of Jesus, his ancestors were given good news by the pen of an unnamed prophet toward the end of the book of Isaiah. Back then, those words were written to Jewish refugees who had been driven from their land by military force. The walls of Jerusalem and the city itself had been crushed, and the conquerors gathered up all the best trained Jewish leaders and sent them across the desert wilderness to live in Babylonia. They lived there in exile. And even the brightest and the best Jews of their days were tempted to give up on the absolutes of their life, tempted to give up on the 10 Commandments, tempted to give up on their faith and go along with Babylonian ways. You see, the temple they had built in Jerusalem to God was now in ruins, and I imagine any faith they had built was also in ruins. But times were changing, as they always do. One nation was rising while another was slipping away, and into that void came a rising Persian nation. And there was this rumor that circulated that the Persians, upon conquering a nation, would set free all the refugees and allow them to return to their homeland. And just at that time, this great poet spoke to the Jewish refugees. We don't know his name. All we know is that his poetry is found near the end of the book of Isaiah. And he said to those who had lost their faith, "Have you not known? And have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, creator of the ends of the earth. God does not grow faint or grow weary. His understanding is unsearchable. God gives power to the faint, and to him who has no might, he increases strength." And what we find in this passage is a great call to faith, which does not surprise us. The Bible is full of great calls to faith. However, this passage also has another call, the call to move on. Even when things seem so hopeless, God calls us to faith, and then God calls us to move on. Let's face it, God put our universe in motion this way with all of its ebbs and its flows, its ups and its downs. And somehow, through the mysterious power of this everlasting God, generation after generation have found faith again and moved on in hope. You see, this message of faith and moving on, it's not new. But now today, in the restlessness of our world, we see many who are yearning to find faith and ways to move on from the racial divides that separate us still, to move on from socioeconomic realities that shape our existence and trap so many of us in despair, to move on from the strife and the discord we experience between people and ideas, to move on to restoring a sustainable planet to live on and to thrive within. And it seems to me that now more than ever, the question is, will we find faith in God who beckons us to move on into the future with hope? Our young adults now know that the expectations and the challenges are higher than ever. It is not an easy time for more and more of their generation. And although the temptation may be to hunker down, to make do, or just try to survive, I think our prayerful challenge for them needs to be for them to believe in what God calls them to do, and then to continually invest themselves in that call. In other words, believe in the faith of the author of the book of Hebrews, who wrote, "Live with the assurance of things hoped for and the conviction of things not seen." I would like to think that such a faith is the best part of the heritage that we can give to the next generation. May God bless us as we all find ways to move on wisely and well, with faith and with hope.